Hello. I'm going to show you how to install a RACEPAK Sportsman data recorder. First, I'd like to thank RACEPAK. They sponsored some gifts at the U.S. Nationals at the Sportsman Appreciation Dinner, and I ended up winning a package that included a Sportsman RACEPAK. So, once again, thank you to Holley and RACEPAK for posting some prizes at the Sportsman Racer Appreciation Dinner. Okay, so I'm going to go through everything here. First of all, this is the RACEPAK unit. You can see it's got 3 connectors, one for your drive shaft and input, one for your power, and one for the V-net. On the back, there's an SD card that plugs in. All your runs are recorded on that. Then there's just this little plug to go in there. When you normally run it, that's going to be in there. If not, when you pull that plug out, you would actually plug in this cable here to the back of the RACEPAK, plug this into your computer. Let's get it where you can see it. Plug this into the back of the RACEPAK, plug the USB into your computer, and then that way you can change the configuration if you add new sensors or take sensors off. Okay, so this is the power harness. Okay, it's got a fuse built in it, and I'm going to wire this up to a hot at all times 12-volt power. The black is going to go to the ground. The yellow is going to go to the tack output from my big stuff, and the blue is going to go to a push button that will be the record button. Okay, which is this little push button right here. Okay, this harness is the drive shaft RPM and event. So the orange one is for event, and this plugs into a Hall effect sensor. Okay, this I'm going to wire to my clutch pedal so that I know whether the clutch is in or out. Okay, so this is a terminator, which you would plug in here if you're only using it for like your drive shaft and engine RPM and so on. But this just terminates the V-net. But if you plug in a bunch of V-net stuff, you still need a terminator at the end of it to prevent signal loss. Okay, then also, let's see, what else do we got here? So this is a bracket that goes on your rear end, and your Hall effect sensor goes into there. So this Hall effect sensor, it did come with this kit also, and it would go into here, and this would bolt onto your rear end. Okay, so once again, this is the Hall effect sensor, and what it does is when it passes one of the magnets in the collar. Okay, so this collar separates. It's a split collar. You clamp it around your pinion yoke on the rear end. It spins, it goes past this and creates a signal every time it passes one of the magnets, and that will create a pulse, and the RACEPAK will count the pulses and figure out RPM and so on. Okay, what else do we got here? So this is a little USB reader that will plug into your computer, and you can plug your SD card in there for downloading your SD card, your runs into your computer. This is a USB stick. It's got all the software on the for the RACEPAK that you would load on your computer. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything that comes with the RACEPAK. itself. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some other stuff, because not only am I going to hook up the drive shaft RPM and the tack output, I'm also going to put some travel sensors. So okay, so I went and grabbed some more stuff. So I'm going to be putting travel sensors. I'll show you a travel sensor first. So these travel sensors, they have 3 wires, 5 volts in, ground, and 0 to 5 volts out. That corresponds to the position of the sensor. Okay. That was a 0 to 5 inch. This is a 0 to 10 inch. Okay. Now I've got here's the packing it comes in. It's a Haltech unit. Okay. So I've got 2 of these that are 0 to 10, and I'm going to put 1 on each side of the front of the car. So it'll go from the lower control arm up into the shock tower, and that will measure how much the front suspension is traveling. Okay. This one is going to go on the rear end housing, so it'll bolt to the rear end and it'll bolt up into the car, and it will measure how much the rear end travels. Okay, and then they give you male connectors to plug into the female connectors with all the pins, so you can build your own little harness. Because this, first of all, it's not gonna, it's not the same plug configuration. So you need, and it's not long enough anyways for where I'm going to. So this is a 0 to 5 volt analog to digital VNet module. Okay, so it's going to put out 5 volts constant ground, and then it's going to read the 0 to 5 volt signal that comes from this or this. Okay, so I bought 3 of these because I'm going to have 3 travel sensors on the car. So that's it for now. Next we're going to go over to the car, and we're going to find a 12 volt source that's hot at all times to hook a switch to power the race pack off and on. And then we're also going to drill a hole in the there's like a dash trim plate that has all the switches in it. We're going to drill another hole in there and mount this push button to initiate record. Okay, so let me tell you about the car we're going to install the Sportsman RACEPAK in. This is my 2012 CobraJet Mustang. It runs in an NHRA stock, factory stock G. It's got 5-speed in it. I don't know if you can see that, but this car does have a Big Stuff 3 in it. And the Big Stuff 3 does have the DAE package, Data Acquisition External. So it's capable of recording drive shaft and a few other parameters that are not the engine itself. So just a little lesson on Big Stuff. They have DAE, they have DAI. DAI is Data Acquisition Internal, which is just the engine sensors, your O2 sensor, your map sensor, temperatures, all that stuff. So when you get DAE, they give you some extra inputs, so you can put a drive shaft sensor and some other things like that. But it's very limited. Their DAE is still very limited. So that's the reason I'm putting the RACEPAK in here, is because I want to record, to start with, front suspension travel and rear suspension travel. And you really can't do that with the big stuff. I'm just going to put, you know, the race pack, and I'm going to probably mount it like right over here next to the seat on this crossbar you see right here behind the seat. Okay, and so one other reason I'm putting the race pack in here is I will be getting all my drive shaft data now into the race pack, which is not connected to the big stuff. And the big stuff input for the drive shaft, I'm going to take that off so that there's no drive shaft data going into the big stuff. Okay. Now I don't have traction control. This version of big stuff that I have does not have traction control. So that was never an issue. In fact, this year when I raced at Indy, they were looking at everybody's EFI, their ECUs, anybody that had EFI. And so they were kind of, you know, giving me the third degree on, you know, oh, you got a drive shaft sensor, where's that go? It goes into my big stuff. Oh, let's look through your big stuff. Show me this, show me that. It's like, yeah, see, no traction control. So they didn't make me take it off or anything, but I'd just rather get it out of there and not have to, you know, explain myself through that again. So we'll just start collecting drive shaft data with the race pack. And like I said, we're going to collect suspension travel. And then eventually, you know, there's other stuff that I do want to capture with this new race pack. Okay, so the first thing to do is get in the car and take out the center cage stack and switch panel, and look for a 12-volt source. Okay, so I got the switch panel out, and you can probably see, like right here, here's an extra switch right here. It's already got a ground wire going to it, so I'm going to splice this wire over to here, which will put power to it, and then the race pack's going to then hook to the bottom lug, and that last switch will power the race pack. When I splice this wire, I'm also going to put another splice in here to go to the push button switch for the record button. Okay, so I need to modify the harness. So I'm going to go into, this is my electrical ECU, whatever room you want to call it. Okay, so I dug through here and I found a yellow and red wire which matches the wire that's that I want to extend, because I want to keep the color coding the same. And then I dug through these connectors here, and I found all the little spade male and female connectors that I need to wire up the power switch and the record switch for the race pack. Okay, so I made up this little extender for my harness, so that will plug into the female connector that went on the switch, and it will now, then this one will go back to that original switch. This will go to the new switch for the race pack, and this one's going to go up to the record button. So next I got to drill a hole for the record button. You can see here we got a hole in the panel, and we're gonna put that switch in there. Now we're gonna connect this to this wire here and extend the power to the switches and to the push button. Alright, we have our power switch. We have the power going to it, and we have the power going to the record button. And then we got to put the harness in here, and we'll then hook those up. Okay, we're going to see about getting this mounted in the car. So I made this little bracket, and it's going to bolt on to this roll bar clamp. It's made for 1 1/4. That's what the back brace is in the car. So we're going to put a little fastener here, thread it into this. Spin it in. Snug. Okay, so we got our bracket made up, and some rubber isolators came with the Sportsman RACEPAK, so they've already been put onto the unit. And then this, let's get them lined up. Okay, so that'll go on there like that. And then let's put these on. Okay, they give you all this hardware to do this. They just don't give you a bracket to mount on your roll cage. But they do sell one, but I just made my own bracket. So it's now ready to bolt onto the roll cage in the car. Okay, so I've got the RACEPAK with its bracket. I'm going to mount it right over here on the roll cage. Hopefully you can see me do this. In fact, I think I'm going to go around to the other side so that I'm not blocking the view out. Take this bracket off completely to get it on there. And we're going to face this forward for the That's the way they want you to face it, with the SD card pointing forward and the cables pointing towards the back. So let's grab this. Okay, we got one started. Okay, we got them both started. And let's just slide it over right about here. Okay. Now we'll tighten these up. Okay, he's tight. All right, here's a look at the race pack. You can see it's mounted on the cage with the SD card facing forward. That's the way they want it. All right, so I did a little bit of measuring, and this harness, it plugs into the back of the race pack for the power. It will not make it all the way up to the switch or to the record button. It basically makes it up to the kick panel underneath the dash on the passenger side. So I'm going to trim, and I already took and started taping, oh, I don't know, every 8 inches or so, this together so it's not all loose. So I'm going to trim all these to the same length. This red wire seems to be the shortest wire, so I'm going to make them all the same. And cut a little bit off of this because we don't need that much on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire up, this is a MetraPack 150 seal connector. I'm going to wire this up as male so that the other side that's hot, you know, will be the female side. Let's do this. Push out a little bit. Now we'll crank the seal. Okay. So the seal's been crimped. Okay, so I got my last one crimped. Where are we at? Okay. So I got the last one crimped. And we're going to insert them into here. Okay, so they're all in. Okay, so I went back in my electrical room and I did find some TPA locks. So let's put this one on. Stiff. There we go. There we go. Okay, so now it's got the lock, the lock on it. Okay, so let's grab this. And we're going to go back to the car. In fact, we'll grab the other harness too, because they can both go in now. All right, so I laid this harness just kind of in here for now. And I got the dry shaft sensor harness in here too. So I'm going to climb in here and actually plug them into the back of the unit. Yeah, you can see they're both plugged into the back of the unit. So I'm going to get some zip ties and zip tie this all to the cage, and then I'm also going to pop this rocker sill off, because I'm going to route this one will end up going underneath that, and it should end up somewhere up in there, and then I can finish them off from there. Okay, so we're going to wire up this side of the harness. This is a continuation of the RACEPAK power harness. This is a female MetroPAK 150 4-pin connector. So I'm going to use the same color wires. So we'll do a yellow one here. Seal on there. There we go. Crimp the seal. Okay, that's crimped. Okay, this is our ground. Cut this a little bit off. Put a seal on there. Okay, that's snug. Pull them in a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's done. And all right, we're gonna then put the female pin on here. Crimp the wire. There. Okay. Crimp the seal, okay. And we already did the blue one. So we're going to put these into the connector itself. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, all the wires are crimped and in the connector. So now we're going to take the TPA, the terminal pin assurance, and push it on here. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to measure this out to 5 feet long, because that's how far it needs to go from the kick panel under the dash, up the cage, and over to the switch panel. All right, let's measure out 5 feet on this. So do this. I'll just do one wire at a time. Probably be easier that way. 5 feet. Okay. Let's do the red wire. Yellow wire. And the black wire, I'm leaving that short because I'm going to just put a stud thing on there, and he will get grounded to the aluminum plate that's under the dash there. All right, I'm going to start taping these up. Okay, we'll start right here. I'll leave that black wire loose because he's going to find his way to a ground connection. Okay, let's just pull the slack out of there. Okay, so I can put these two connectors on the blue and the red. Female spade connectors. And then they're going to go to either the blue one's going to go to the push button under the dash, or on the dash. The red one's going to go to the power switch. Now I'm going to use my heat gun here to heat shrink these on. These are nice because not only are they crimped, but then the heat shrink It keeps them from pulling the wire out, and it seals them up nice. Yeah, I really like using these. Okay, that looks good. Next, I'm going to wire up the connector that plugs into the VNet module for a travel sensor. Okay, let's get the stuff out of here. We'll give you a piece of shrink tubing. Here's the connector itself, and here's the pins. Okay, and that will plug into here. Okay, and then this plugs into your VNet. But this isn't long enough to reach the shock or the travel sensor. So I have to make this 3-wire harness. Like this one has got to reach from basically behind the cage and all the way up to the driver's side front wheel. So I'm going to strip this one. The signal return, and that's going to go in the middle here. Okay, he's snapped in. So he's wired up. He's ready to plug into here. So I'm going to go along and see how this one looks. Where's the other one? Here's one that I made up already. Because I got to have 3 of these. And it's been taped, like, I don't know, every 6 inches. And I'm going to take and do that to this one. So, okay, I found 3 shorter pieces of wire. So these should be able to make it from the VNet module through the rear floor and go to the rear end for this sensor that's going to measure the rear end travel. So let's strip it. So this blue one. I think on this one, the blue is going to be the signal return, the green will be the ground, and this brown and red will be the power. Okay, I've crimped these 3 wires and inserted them into this connector, and this is going to hook up to the module that's going to go to the rear suspension travel. So what I want to do is go on and put some shrink tube over this. Got to start all the way at the other end because I didn't put it on ahead of time. Both pieces of shrink tube on there. This one's so big that it doesn't shrink all the way down. So you actually need to put a smaller piece and then a bigger piece. those pliers. I don't know. Oh, they're there. Yeah, take and stretch this one a little bit. And that way it'll go over this. Okay. And then we'll put this one up in here. Not that far. Yeah, okay. Take the heat gun and shrink the shrink tubing to seal this up. Okay, that should be good. And then next I'm gonna go all down through here and tape all this together. You know, like every 6 inches or so. Okay, here's what we got left. I made up 3 harnesses right here. They're gonna plug into these for my travel sensors. Now these harnesses are not yet done because I have to take this connector and crimp it onto the ends. There's 3 of these connectors, 1 each onto these harnesses, because this connector is going to plug into you know, the sensor itself. So I want to get all this in the car and then trim these so they're not too long, but they give you a little bit of slack to maneuver them and plug them in and so on, but you know, get rid of the excess slack in these harnesses. But I need to get them into the car to figure out that. These are the modules that will plug into the race pack and then this end will plug into the basically to the sensors. So what I'm going to do is take these and you basically daisy chain them together. Okay, this one is just a T, basically a T connector. So this is actually going to go directly in the race pack, and then I can stack all of these onto here, and then I'm going to put a terminator on this side, and I'm going to put a terminator right here on this side. And like I said, this will plug into the race pack. This will go to the travel sensors, and this will get. I'm going to put this right next to like if the race pack's here, this is going to plug in here, and then this will get zip tied to the cage, and then these will follow themselves down the cage to these other harnesses. And then the other thing I got left is this harness here is going to plug in up under the kick panel of the dash, and these will go to the power, record button. This has got to go to the tack, and then I'll put a ring crimp connector on here to get bolted down to the aluminum plate under the dash. so we're down to this now. All right, so right here I've got the V-net modules with this cable, this T junction coming off that's going to go into the back of the race pack. So I'm going to go around there and plug it in. Okay, he's plugged in. Okay, so next I'm going to grab all these cables and pull them all towards me. Let's get a zip tie around these cables. Alright, so we got the V-net modules zip tied to the cage. We got the cables routed along the back and then down the main hoop to the floor. Now I just got to take and start getting them. I got to plug in the other harnesses to the end of these V-nets and plug them, run them up under the rocker sill. So I'm going to go get those. Okay, so I'm plugging in these harnesses. This one's going to go to the passenger side. Then I'm going to plug this one in there, which I can't. Let's see. So this one's going to plug in here. I'll have to set the camera down to do this. Okay, so they're all plugged in. Now I'm gonna pop this sill plate out of here. Okay, so I put some zip ties and zip tied this all together up to about here. I'm gonna trim these zip ties and then I'm gonna put some sheathing around it. Okay, I got all the wires covered with the wire loom. Now I got to take and get them down in here, up under there. That's the next place we got to go. Okay, so I had to take some more of the interior out. So I get back in there, and I've got the cable run through here, the harness, and it's zip tied to the cage. This I'm going to run up to the passenger front wheel. This is going to go across the bar on the cage over to the other side. And then I don't know if we can see this or not. Yeah, so this is going to go to the clutch pedal switch. And this is going to go to power everything up. Okay, so this here panel, I've got the record switch here. This is the power button now to turn on the race pack. I've got it wired up, and the harness is now up under there. I got to ground that lug. This right here, that is for the travel sensor. It's going to go that way through the firewall, or really the front wheel well into the to the front suspension. And then on this side, I've got the this is the harness, and it's going to go through the wheel well up that way to get to the driver's side. I'm gonna have to pull the carpeting up back here. It's velcroed down, so I'm gonna pull up the carpeting so that I can get this rear travel sensor harness put in and run the cable to my drive shaft pickup. Okay, so I got the carpeting and the aluminum subfloor out of the way, and this is the harness that goes to the drive shaft sensor. And there was already a hole here because I had a sensor going to my big stuff, and I pulled that out, and now I'm going to put this in here like so, and I'll get the grommet seated in there. Okay, since I have to kind of adjust the length of this wire on the other side of the floor to where it goes to the rear end, I'll put the grommet in from the other side because it's just too hard to reach over this roll cage and stuff to work this in. So I'm gonna pick the car up on the hoist and put this grommet in. Maybe this will be a little easier, I don't know. Okay, it's in. Now, this is going to go, yeah, we can just leave him right there. He doesn't need to come through very far. Okay, so this was the one that went to my big stuff and to this sensor, but I can just put a whole new sensor on it. Just keep this one for a spare then. All right, I'm going to remove this. Drive shaft sensor. Okay, so now I'm going to take this harness, which is going to go to the rear travel sensor. We're going to push it through this this little hole here that's got a grommet in it, and this is going to put it into the trunk, and then it's going to, once it's in the trunk, then it can go over to the driver's side, because I'm going to mount this. I'm only going to mount one sensor, and it'll be on the driver's side. All right, I'm going to go in the trunk and pull that out some more. Okay, so now I'm going to take this cable and I'm going to put a zip tie around this cable so that it doesn't get pulled further out of the car. And I'm going to have to set the camera down to do this. And you can see there's a zip tie around it so it won't get pulled out. Okay, so pull this harness for the travel sensor. It's pulled through back to here, and what we're going to do is there is a hole right there, and we're actually going to feed the sensor wire up through there, and we'll plug in the sensor up here in the trunk to take slack away from it there. So once I get the sensor on, I'll trim this to the proper length and put the connector on it, but we're going to have to get the sensor on and get the actual cable from the sensor pushed up through that hole. Alright, the close off panel is fastened back in. Now I'm going to take the carpeting and Velcro it back down to the close off panel. Alright, we have all of the carpeting back in place. And now Got to concentrate on the front half of the car to get this harness and the other harness that's on the other side to the two front wheels for the travel sensors that are going to be put up there. Okay, I got the car back up in the air, and I'm gonna. Okay, then I'm gonna get a bottle jack. I'm gonna jack up the car, the front end of the car. Take the wheels off. I'm gonna get the inner wheel well panels out of here, so I can run my harnesses, you know, in behind here, and start getting the sensors hooked up. Okay, we got the wheels up. We're on jack stands here, and we're ready to get the wheels off and get the wheel wells out. All right, we'll get the wheels off. Okay, take the wheel off. Let's get these loose. Okay, there we go. Wheel wells out. There's this rubber bulkhead here that the wiring harness passes through. So I'm going to pull this out, untape it, and then put another harness through here because it's plenty big to hold some more cable in there. Because okay, so this way through the grommet there was not enough room. But on this side of this grommet, they had another hole, but it was it had like a cap on it. So I cut the cap off of it, and I slid this harness through. This is the one that's going to go to my sensor. So we're able to get it through there, and then I'm just going to have to push this back in there. I'll put a little tape around this again. We should be good. All right. Here's the harness. Here's the connector I'm going to put on it. Right here, this is going to plug into the sensor. Yep. So on this sensor, orange is the power, white is the signal, and black is the ground. Okay, got them all stripped, and I got the pins crimped on them, and I got them pushed into the connector. So now I'm going to take the seal and push him back down into the cavity. This is the TPA, terminal pin assurance is what they call it. I'm going to push this in here like so. Okay. Okay, so I got my laptop out here. I got up in the car and I plugged in to the back of the race pack. And I'm going to plug this into the USB. Close that. I'm going to open up the race pack program. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try out this sensor. We've got them plugged in, and we're going to move them. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, and we're going It's a new telemetry session. Okay, that's the config that we want. It's the default right now. Would you like to start? Yes. So we'll say yes. And let's look at all the shocks. 1, 2, 3. Let's turn off these RPMs. Okay, now are we getting? Here it is. Okay. So right front shock all the way up to 10. Bring it back down to 0. Okay, so this sensor seems to be working fine. So next what we got to do is actually mount them up into the shock tower and to the control arm. Okay, as you can see, this is in a bind because it's about 2 inches over at the bottom from contacting the lower control arm. So you can see it let's take a look. See, it moves this way, but it can only go this far. So I need to get some different spacers that will allow that. And yeah, okay. So we're gonna have to get some different hardware to get this to work right. So what you probably want to do is use a plastic screw on the bottom. That way, if anything gets into a bind, it'll snap the plastic screw before it, you know, breaks any of this other stuff. And up top, it's got a metal screw, so, or bolt or whatever, so that won't break. But this one will shear in case there's some kind of a problem. But I've got this stuff on my one super stock car with plastic screws on the bottom. It's been fine. The only problem I have right now is this plastic screw is not going to be long enough to put spacers and everything on it, you know, what I want to do. So for now, I'm not even going to put a nylock on it. I'm just going to mock it up. Put a spacer. And this. And go through there. Okay. Let's come around to the other side. All right, I'm going to take this side apart so that I can get the harness run into here. Okay, next we got to pop out this wheel well covering. The travel sensor harness has been pulled through the firewall here. I'm going to zip tie it to this harness that is already in here. That's the one that goes to my line lock. Got this cut to length. Need to strip the wires. Okay, I'm going to put the seal in here. Or get the pins through it, rather. And so. Okay. Now, he's in. He's in. He's in. Okay. And we got to put the TPA in. Okay. Now this should plug in. I'm going to put one zip tie around this here to keep from pulling that out. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to get the computer. Oh, it's in the house. All right, we'll do that later. What I'm going to do now is locate the hole and drill a hole to mount the top side of this. And I can drill a hole in the control arm after that. Let's. Okay, in order to mount this sensor in the shock tower to the control arm, I have this 4mm bolt, and it'll go through the hole in the shock tower, and then this will tighten it up to the shock tower. Then once it's on there, I'm going to put this little spacer. That'll go through there. Another spacer. And then we're going to put a nylock on this. Okay. This, I didn't want this to be flat against the I didn't want this to be flat against the shock tower, because then it wouldn't have movement. So now it's got movement. Now the other thing, you'll notice these little spacers. I actually had to make these spacers. Started out, I went to the hardware store and I bought, this is the only 4mm spacer they had. But when you put it in there, it didn't have enough movement. So that's why I ended up making these little, very thin spacers. Now I got plenty of movement. So what I ended up doing is I bought this tubing. It's a 4mm ID and 1/2 millimeter on the thickness, so it's only 5mm. And then I used, you know, just a little tubing cutter to cut off all my little spacers here. So we're going to put this up in the car. I think earlier in the video, if I left it in there, you might have seen me mounting the sensor here down to the control arm. Well, ends up after I got it mocked up in there, I started moving the steering back and forth, and it turns out that the strut was getting too close. Wasn't touching it, but I wasn't comfortable with how close it was getting to the sensor. So I ended up putting a hole here in the shock tower and putting a nut and bolt up there to hold that in. And now we're going to put a spacer over it to kick this out from there. Let me get a light in here. Put that on. We're going to put another spacer in there. Okay, now I'll get the nylock started on there, and I'll have to get a wrench to tighten it up. Okay, I'm going to snug up this nylock on here. Be good. Okay, now this is mounted in there good. And we'll swing this out of the way. And we'll all right, this is the RACEPAK drive shaft sensor, Hall effect sensor. We're gonna come under here. All right, so this bracket is on the rear end. It was already on there because of the big stuff. And now I'm going to put this in here and get the nut started on it. So give me a second here. Okay, so RACEPAK calls for 50 to 100. So I stacked up 58, and that feels good. So now all we got to do is plug this into here. I don't think I can do it while holding the camera. Hang on. Okay, so now we got the drive shaft sensor plugged in. That's good. Now the next thing we're going to do is start on the rear end housing here and put a sensor from a travel sensor from here up to the bottom of the floor up there. All right, I need to make a bracket to hold this up to the floor, okay? So I'm gonna make like a channel. And what I did is I found some steel remnants, and I cut 1 inch by 3 inch. Then I marked it at 1 inch on each side. And by the time I bend it, it's going to be a little smaller, and it's going to work out because it's going to end up being like 820 thousandths. I got these two spacers in here, and the distance is like 820 in there. So by the time I bend this and it takes up for the thickness of it, it should be pretty close. Then I'm going to drill a hole in it here, and it'll bolt up into the car, and then with the bends, I'll drill a hole in each side, and then this will go through it. Take this over to the brake. Okay, I'm going to bend this piece of steel in my brake. Up on there. I just want to check, make sure he's square. Yep, that looks good. Okay. So, bring this up. Stop right there. Let's look at it. Okay. Now let's do the other side. All right, so here's the bracket. It's been up. I'll go check it. Yeah, it's about 840. Okay, so that'll work. Now I'm going to drill a hole in the top and then a couple holes here. All right, I drilled a 1/4-inch hole in this bracket, and this is a 1/4-20 bolt. I'm going to put a 1/4-20 bolt or a 1/4-20 riv nut up in the floor of the car, and this will bolt up. This will bolt up to the floor, and then I measured up 3/8 from the bottom, drill a 4mm hole in both sides, and put a 4mm bolt through it. Basically hang it like, you know, right in here. Like so. Okay, we got the holes in it. Now I'm going to take over the belt sander and I'm going to round off these edges. All right, now we rounded off the edges and we're going to try it out. All right, here's the bracket. And I ended up putting a button head Allen in there so I can get in there and tighten it, because I'm going to put all this together with the bolt laying in there and then put it up in there. But I'm going to take it apart and paint it. All right, you can see the riv nut tool up in there. I've squeezed the riv nut. I actually had to put a bar on the end of that tool to get leverage because it was really tough working in there. But I'm ready to unscrew the riv nut tool, and we'll have a riv nut there to bolt the hanger bracket for the sensor. All right, so let's see, back it out. All right, I have two different riv nut tools, so I was going to use this one here, but it was too wide. It just wouldn't fit up in there. But this riv nut tool, I mean, it's really good as long as you have access, because it's got, the handles are so long on it, you can really get a lot of leverage, and it's really easy to use if it fits. So I ended up using, instead, let me get it over here. I ended up using this riv nut tool, which is normally only this long. I put a bar on it, piece of tubing on it to extend it to get leverage, because, I mean, again, even though it fit up in there, I just couldn't get enough squeeze on it in the right position. So I used this bar to give me leverage, and we got the riv nut in there. Okay, so this bracket is extremely difficult to get up in there and tighten. I got it snug, but I don't have it tight, okay? And the other thing is, when my split collar gets built, this is going to go approximately, let's get some light on this.
This sensor should be approximately here on the split collar when I get it built, and yeah, that's not going to be, I want to have more clearance, so I'm going to build a new bracket to hang it up there. But the hole's good, the riv nut hole is good, but I need to redesign the bracket.
Yeah, the problem with this bracket is it's too hard to try and fasten this. And the other thing is this heim joint needs to go up higher. It just needs a little more height to give this more clearance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and make a bracket similar to this. It'll probably be a little longer, and I'm going to offset this hole this way, take these holes, offset them that way. That way I can get straight at the bolt to tighten it. And when I do that, I'm actually going to take this hole, and instead of here, I'll move it up closer so that the heim joint will still clear, but the bolt won't be in the way because it'll be over here. And then, but it can get up higher. That'll raise the sensor up some. Okay, my new bracket. It clears the heim joint, which it was no problem, but I wanted to get it up closer to towards the floor. And this is offset, so I can get a wrench to it, and I can just put this whole assembly up in there. And yeah, that should work good.
Let's see if we can get this up in here. Should be able to. Okay, it's threading in. Now, you just put this up there. Okay, let's swing this back around this way, right here. Okay, that's nice and snug. Okay, so I've got the sensor mounted temporarily because I want to take the bracket off and paint it. But since I mounted it, I pushed the connector up through there, measured this out, cut it. So now I'm going to crimp ends. I'm going to crimp some ends on these wires. And put the connector together. Okay, we have the pins crimped onto the wires, so now I'm going to put them into the plastic connector body. Okay, the connector here is all together. Just need to plug it into the sensor there. Alright, the plastic bolt is in there. It's got these two little steel spacers. This has got plenty of articulation, so it's good. Alright, this bracket that's going to go in the rear of the car to hold the top of the travel sensor. I painted it flat black. So I'm going to assemble this. Okay, the sensor's attached to the bracket. Now I'm going to go bolt the bracket up in the car. Alright, so last night I got a package in the mail. It was this clamp right here. Okay. This is going to clamp around the rear end, the axle tube, and then I've got a couple holes in it here that the heim joint and a plastic bolt will go through there to hold the heim joint and hold the sensor. So This will clamp. This is 3¼ inch ID. The axle tube is 3¼ inch OD. So that should go on there snug. And that will locate the sensor on the housing. And I'd like to thank Dennis Weidendorf. He machined this up for me. I looked around, I could not, about the biggest split collar clamp that I could find was like maybe 2½ inches. Nobody made a 3¼ inch, but he made this for me on his Bridgeport. So thanks, Dennis Weidendorf. His website is weidendorfmachine.com, or an alternate way to his website is lifterboretools.com. All right, I'm going to put this clamp around the housing. Let's see. I'm going to get him about right here, maybe. Let's see. So we got this bracket here, and it's got the hole right there. And we're going to put a bolt through there. This will give us this much compression, which we probably shouldn't need, because basically this car, when it launches, it's going to, the car separates, so it's going to extend. Okay, so once I got this on here, the plastic bolt on here, I took and loosened this clamp up and just moved it over a little bit, just so I could get this sensor to be straight up and down, you know, like 90 degrees to the body and 90 degrees to the rear end, so that it's not pulling on an angle. So let me see. Here's what it looks like. I think you can see the top bracket and then the split collar holding it there. So hopefully this is going to work good for me. Okay, so the race pack is in. It's completely wired up, partially tested. All of the travel sensors are in and mounted, and they don't seem to have any clearance problems. So the next step will be to, just test this out, make a recording. I want to run the engine, but it's probably like 30 degrees outside right now. So I really don't want to open the door and run this, because I don't like running this engine when it's that cold, because then you shut it off and you got all that cold air running back up. So I'm going to wait a couple days here till the end of the week. It's supposed to get warm, and then we'll start this up and record a session and look at it and make sure everything looks good.